Hello everyone and welcome to St-Eustache for the third round of the Mopar Superbike National Championship Series. I'm your series announcer, Frank Wood. Today's race is brought to you by Dalton Timmis Insurance, Honda, Magneti Marelli offered by Mopar, Drift, and Dunlop.
Extreme heat wave here in Quebec. We've had 4 days of very hot running as we go off the tire warmers with those Dunlop slicks and head out for one warm-up lap before 22 race laps.
And of course our grid established through Dalton Timmis Insurance, and fast qualifier was Jordan Zoke, but here's the rest of our field.
You can see everybody heading off to the far south end of the track on the carousel. Worth mentioning, Sebastian Tremblay, one of many riders who's on a 600 sport bike class bike, and they are very competitive here, really only about a second between the very best 600s and the very best superbikes. Unfortunately, Mitch Card.
Thank you. Take note, I was going to say that Mitch Card did hurt himself in practice yesterday. He rode the 600 race and ended up on the podium in that race, but he has elected not to compete here in the Mopar Superbike feature.
In the first two rows, we have largely BMWs, as has been the case this year, but Trevor Daly getting onto the front row with his Kawasaki, and there he is, leading Michael Leon. And right now, everybody's just trying to keep their heart down in their chest. Lots of pressure here. The start is so important because this track is tough to pass on. Traffic is a huge issue. There you can see Jeff Williams, who's been doing a lot of R&D on that red BMW of his, and we're just about ready to go.
Well, Daly, third fastest qualifier in Dalton Timmis Insurance qualifying, and I guess the big news item that we should look for here is the fact that Samuel Trepanier, who has been very quick here and was fourth fastest qualifier, starting from 10th position, Colin, his motorcycle ran out of gas on the dyno.
Yep, very specific rules about what happens post-qualifying, and unfortunately after a good performance with the Dalton Timmis Super Pole, things did not go well for Trepanier as we head towards starters' orders.
Daly on the 116. We now look to the Pro 6 cycle countdown clock. The lights are all on. When the lights go off, the field will launch. We look now and away they go, and Daly got a very good start there, but it is Ben Young. Ben Young has got the race lead, and he leads. Jordan Zoke has snuck into a second spot there.
And diving to the inside there was Jeff Williams, very ambitious, and that move worked. He is up to third, so good for Jeff.
You know what? He's been psyching himself up all weekend long, actually. He's been talking about how quick his lap times are, how he keeps going down and lower in the lap count. Here we are now on board with Ben Young, and Jordan Zoke is pulling the front wheel in pursuit. Here comes Zoke as he moves up alongside and has taken the race lead. Zoke into the race lead already, and Young shunted back to second. Not for a moment. Ben Young sneaks through there. What a beautiful pass by Young right on the inside of Zoke.
There's a lot of math involved in picking up the lines there, and I don't think Zoke exactly had what he wanted, and I think he got out of that, let Young by again, but Zoke really aggressive in the early going, and obviously these guys are trusting their tires from the start.
Remember well how disappointed. Let's have a look at it again.
Right, and here we see Young leading the race, and Zoke makes the move, but what's interesting here is I think Young goes maybe a little deeper on the brakes than Zoke was expecting, and this makes Zoke cautious on the exit. This is bumpy on the crossover into the stock car. Look at Zoke. He actually glances over to see Young. At this point, he leaves the door open. Young's aggressive on the brakes, so we start over again, but we definitely know that Jordan is comfortable off the back straight.
You know full well that Ben Young was bitterly disappointed in finishing second, so close a second place down at the West Coast there at
Grand Bend Motorplex. Ben Young was 2 turns away from taking the victory, so you know he wants this one bad. Once again at the carousel, and Zoke has lined up for the slipstream in perfect situation on the very short straight.
And again, pulling the front wheel on that BMW. Man, he's got a ton of horsepower. This time it looks like he's gotten by cleanly from Ben Young. In fact, yes, I'm going to give him maybe maybe a bike length. Young, no opportunity there. Zoke had that corner covered perfectly.
No, Young had a look, and he was hoping that maybe Jordan would leave the door open, but that is never going to happen twice. And Ben Young, here we go on board with Young as we watch Jordan lifting the front wheel, accelerating really hard. You can see the drift camera on the side of Jordan's bike as he slipstreams by our leader. And I think what happened here too is that Young wasn't quite as aggressive with the brakes because he kind of expected that Jordan would try that one again.
I'm very impressed with Jeff Williams, by the way. way, who is making a return to Superbike racing. He had a great career going on for quite some time, Colin. Then he went into a lengthy hiatus with business and family and what have you, but he has come back, and he has come back with a little bit of fire under his butt.
Looking at the fastest laps, of course, we're very early in this contest, but Zoke isn't quite down to qualifying time, but he's the only guy doing 45s, and that is why he's starting to pull away incrementally from Ben Young, and Young is in a difficult position. He's hanging on by his fingernails. Jordan is trying to break him, and frequently at this track, one of Jordan's very best tracks, he is able to break the competition.
He runs on dimes around this place. His lap times after lap after lap after lap, just within thousandths of a second of himself, and each and every time he goes into a corner, he's on exactly the same line he was on last time. Young going to school on him now.
Heading through the carousel and not too far back, 4 more Superbikes are still part of the conversation here. So the battle for first isn't obvious at the moment, but I think the contest for the podium is well in play. And I'm looking at the back there. I think it's Williams and Daly and 2 others. One of them's got to be Leon.
Definitely Leon on the number 74 machine. He, of course, riding for the Royal Distributing. He's been on with that team for quite some time now. We're on board with Jordan Zoke right now. He's on the Mopar Express Lane and Motovan sponsored BMW, and he carries that Blackfoot sticker. That's virtually a lifetime sponsor of Blackfoot Cycle out of Calgary, Alberta.
Good view as we head once again to the far south end by the cornfield, heading out of the carousel onto the back straight, and this is the straight where, in fact, the bikes entertain traction control the whole length of the straight, and now we're on board with Daly, and he's got Trepanier. That's the other bike. Trepanier has moved up from 10th, and here we have Jeff Williams.
So Daly passes Williams, and now he drags along Trepanier. And remember, Trepanier has fought his way all the way up from 10th place on the starting line. He is doing a magnificent job here now, but right now he's in behind the Wild Child, and the Wild Child on the Kawasaki is leading him just now.
Great action there from Trevor Daly, who's riding with a lot of confidence on that ZX-10R Ninja. Coming through here, Daly has just picked off Williams. Williams is a little careful on the line. Trepanier sees the gap, strikes, and probably he's done a fair bit of that in the last few laps to get up there. Leon is also in this conversation. Watch here, Daly taking a conservative line up the inside, Trepanier swinging out wide, which is risky when there's other riders nearby.
Daly leads Trepanier now onto the infield. That pass that he made on Williams, I'm talking about Trepanier passing Williams now, that was very, very important. That enabled him to stay with Daly, which is right where he is right now. It was a beautiful pass.
Right, it'll be good to see this fight for third. It's unfortunate if Williams and Leon get scrubbed off, but I think that maybe this is the first time that these two have battled each other, and Daly has shown good speed here. Wasn't here last season. Trepanier, this has not been a strong track for him, and he's trying to overcome that bogey, if you will. And of course, he's been a guy moving his career along pretty fast for the last season. Having another good race like he did at Grand Bend here at St-Eustache would go a lot to indicating what he's capable of. And of course, we're all waiting for the end of the year at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where he led so much of the races last year.
2 battles on the go. You talked about Williams and Michael Leon. They are indeed involved in their own little dice right in behind Daly and Trepanier, who we're watching right now, and the Wild Child getting a bit of a ride there on that Kawasaki. But we should mention Williams and Leon are also very active in the Race Super Series down at Shannonville Motorsport Park, and they quite often dice with one another. We're looking back now at Trepanier, and Trepanier looks like he's ready to pounce.
Trepanier squaring himself up on that bike. He is spinning the tire a lot. And of course, both these guys are trying to do what they can with their TC to make life not too difficult on those Dunlop slicks as we watch Trepanier wheeling. And really, there seems not a lot to choose between these two bikes. So obviously, Daly's Kawasaki is looking very strong on the back straight. But I think it's also interesting to see Daly doesn't mind if the bike's busy underneath him. He seems pretty relaxed and willing to let the bike slide, usually right about here. But no, that time he swung out wild. A little bit of excitement there.
Just a little bit of Wild Child. Trepanier has to be the most inspired of the 2 riders. So starting off the season in rough style down at Shannonville Motorsport Park after ending the 2017 season on a brilliant note at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He came into this weekend, and quite frankly, we almost had to talk him into the fact that you can win this thing if you really want to. He's lamenting that the track is short. It's not his style of racetrack, and just reminding him that any problems with this racetrack are between your ears.
Well, pro riders really don't get to have favorite tracks. They have a job to do, and your goal is to go fast all the time, figure out the problems. You know, Trevor has been fast at times, has a few podiums, won a national in the sport bike class, and he is back with a different kind of program. You could say he has less support than he's had in the past, but he seems more comfortable with the bike. And I would say, you know, looking for somebody to be motivated, Trevor, who has so far been 4th and 5th just off the podium, was 3rd in Dalton Timmis Super Pole. I think the guy who's motivated to try and get a podium this day is Trevor.
Well, he's leading Trepanier right now, and Trepanier has a look to the inside. Daly's doing a great job. He's left no opportunities at all for Trepanier, particularly on that infield section where Zoke was able to capitalize, and indeed Trepanier and Daly did themselves right in through this area here. Look at here as they come in. There's no room there.
The key is a mistake. Somebody will bobble, someone will wind up where they didn't mean to be, and how do they recover? Now, the thing is, look at their Daly getting sideways, but Daly doesn't seem to be bothered by his mistakes at all, and he seems to be able to do what Claudio Corti did 2 years ago at Mosport and not lose much time, even if he's having a bit of an incident. He was telling me he can lose the front end on that Kawasaki and usually save the corner without too much drama, and that is not typical as we go to our halfway boards.
Well, Jordan Zoke's still in the lead, of course, but take note, Tommy Kaz's top 600cc rider holding on to 7th spot there. And again, I lament the fact that they haven't given that kid a Superbike, but there was your running order at the halfway mark. So 11 laps to go as Daly brings them down into the infield. And Colin, it looks for all the world like Trepanier is becoming the bird of prey. He's like a raptor ready to launch himself.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. It's going to be hard to make a pass, and Daly is riding with comfort and confidence. He's not making any big mistakes. You can see him lifting the rear wheel as we head through the S's and drop just slightly downhill, then climb the hill to the carousel on the other side. So I would think it's going to be inside the oval, where it's very easy to make a little mistake, would be the chance that Trepanier might have. But Daly is doing a good job, and this is a good battle with decent pace.
Looking at Trepanier from the back end of that Kawasaki that Daly is on, Rockstar Energy Drink. There goes Trepanier. He's got the right line to the inside now of that right-hander. Exactly what we were talking about. And he, just about ran into Daly on the exit there. Boy, that was close.
And boy, that reminded me of what happened on the first lap between Young and Zoke. And what happened is Trepanier tried that outside off the back straight. It didn't really completely work. We're going to go and see it in replay in just a second. So watch, he's pretty far back here. Daly's maybe a touch tight. But what happens is Trepanier decides to commit, go wide. And probably right about here, Daly hears him or has a sense of, look, he just glanced for a second. So then Daly knows he can't close the door, and then Trepanier just has to be brave on the brakes to complete it. This next part, though, Trepanier very aggressive, Daly hoping to square him off, and he doesn't leave him any room, and I don't think anyone's going to be mad about that, but Daly's aware that Trepanier does not want to give that spot up again, and it's going to be hard to get that spot back after that incident.
And here's that other race that we were talking about between Michael Leon out of Beaconsfield, Quebec, and Jeff Williams out of Invery, Ontario. That's just north of Kingston. Here's Williams running back in behind Michael Leon. These guys are fighting for 5th spot overall as they come out of the carousel now. And again, both motorcycles are BMW S1000 RRs.
Both of these guys working through R&D. Everybody's trying to find more speed in their BMW. Young has picked up quite a bit this year. Jordan, of course, always good at mining those little advantages. So Williams spent some time at the last regional at Shannonville working with a technician who also helps Young, who's up from the States, getting the most out of his traction control. And there you can see that Leon has the tire spinning, but in his typical Leon, fairly smooth style, certainly not as exciting as, say, Trevor Daly, but getting the bike to handle smoothly around here without the electronics intruding a lot is very difficult because the active electronics are busy all the time at this track.
It's going to be interesting to see how this particular dice plays out because, as I mentioned, these two guys have been racing down the Race Super Series, and they've been racing very, very close with one another, and I don't think Williams is going to be satisfied. Oh, another bump there. Oh, that was Zoke. I thought that was Michael Leon coming out there. Now we're having a look at our champion, Jordan Zoke, on the #1.
And Zoke has definitely got rid of Young. Young is not in the shot anymore as we come up and start dealing with traffic, and this is exactly what Jordan wants to see. One bike at a time with no one close behind, so no pressure on him to be aggressive if he isn't sure that the pass is safe.
Yeah, he got that pass done in a hurry. He didn't want to mess around there at all. And again, he brings it down onto the infield. Zoke has been running another perfect race, Colin, running on dimes, as I like to say. He has not missed his mark. Every braking mark is perfect. And the only time he's moved offline is if he's had to with the slower rider in front.
A little bit wider as he comes onto the oval, then threads the needle between the two launch areas of the drag strip. Trickiest part of the track in some regards. There you can see him bouncing that rear wheel as we head downhill through the S's, heading for the carousel as we watch that front wheel, which has a lot of work to do. It's pretty choppy around here. And there, as we head into the carousel, we can see another lapper to be coming through as Jordan gets ready to pull the trigger on around 185 horsepower of BMW.
On board once more with Jordan's. I love these drift cameras. They're awesome. There was a great shot from our infield camera as well. So some terrific footage going on with this as Jordan Zoke now coming up on a lap rider. And that is one of the pro rookies. That is Samuel Desmarais, one of the most promising talents we've seen coming out of Quebec. He won the Amateur Superbike Championship last year. And this is his first year in with the pros, and he is doing a splendid job.
He would have seen the blue flag. He knew Jordan was coming, held his line. Jordan wasn't delayed. Desmarais didn't lose any time either. Now Desmarais is leading the rookie pro standings, sponsored by Brooklyn Cycle Racing, and that is an important indicator of what is possible in the future. And the fact that Desmarais is showing well, he did very well in our pro sport bike race sponsored by Liquid Moly earlier in the day. So Desmarais, a guy who's fulfilling some serious promise.
And the rider just ahead of Zoke right now, speaking of Brooklyn Cycle Racing and the Pro Rookie of the Year award, that was the 2017.
The reigning Pro Rookie
of the Year is Jean-Francois Bilger on the number 68 bike. So he, again, doing quite well again this year in his sophomore appearance.
Heading down through the S's, and Jordan will try and get the timing just right on this move.
Wow! What the... Bilger was into the curb and then right in front of Zoke. That was extremely close.
Yeah, that was not what Bilger intended. Man. And I think the bike got away from him. We're getting late in the race. People are getting tired. And this is the kind of thing. And St-Eustache is famous for these sorts of incidents that involve lap traffic. And it isn't that anyone did anything specifically wrong. It's just there's a lot going on. It's very hot and people are getting tired.
There's Louis Rafa on the 76 bike, the NGK Sparkplug sponsored rider. He's riding a 600cc motorcycle, of course, so he is down around about 75 horsepower on Jordan Zoke.
Of course, that being down in the horsepower is not the end of the world at this track, where so much of it is medium throttle work. Not easy to get the most out of a big bike, but we have 6 or 7 guys here who can do it.
Yeah, and a number of guys that are riding on the sport bikes as well. Tommy Casas would be the most notable of that. He is the front runner in the 600 race within this Superbike race, if you will. But also we have Sebastian Tremblay and Louis Rafa and a number of riders on 600s out there that are equating quite well for themselves.
And definitely an easier bike to handle when it is so hot. As I mentioned earlier, lap times not nearly as different as you might think.
Well, Mitch Card was actually considering riding the 600 in this Superbike race, but as we have noted, Mitch Card has elected not to race at all in this Superbike race after winning the Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike race.
And that's unfortunate. He was 6th at Grand Bend, which was a big step forward for him on the R1. This is his first full season riding the big bike. On board with Zoke with about half a lap to go, and look at what's happening here, Frank. There's some traffic, but it's in the distance. Jordan is pacing the gap, and he is in a nice spot with less than a lap to go.
Yeah, no traffic ahead of him at all. He's got a clear field of vision as he heads down into the infield once more. Zoke, again, a perfect performance here. He has been absolutely unbeatable here, owns the lap record, and wow, what a performance. Another victory for Zoke.
1 turn to go, and he looks smooth and steady. I believe this would be his 7th consecutive win here at St-Eustache. And what we want to do is have a look back behind Ben Young, hopefully getting 2nd, to see what's going on with Trepanier in 3rd.
There's Bilger. Young brings it home in 2nd spot. There's Trepanier, so he has definitely held off Trevor Daly. Trepanier takes 3rd spot. Again, what a performance by him, from 10th up into 3rd.
There's a decent performance too. Nice wheelie by our reigning champion.
That was a beauty. He does tend to celebrate at times. I remember seeing him at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park standing on the footrest coming over the crest of turn 2. So again, a very happy camper with Jordan Zoke.
We're going to have a look at our results as we watch Jordan Zook head off with the checkered flag, well earned. Ben Young a fairly close second. Trepanier outdueling Daly for fourth as Leon moves up to fifth. Looking out the rest of our top 10, Jeff Williams third early on, gets sixth. Kazaz is the top 600 from Tremblay, Aubin, and Bilger. Now let's head to Frank and the podium with our top three.
Samuel Trepanier, I knew you had a fire burning inside you. After being penalized, after the dyno thing, you got penalized. You started from 10th position and you rode the wheels off that motorcycle to come up and visit me.
Yeah, Frank, thank you for all the motivation. It's sorry people, I'm really out of breath here. It was a real battle. I know Trevor got a lot of fuel, and not only on his bike but on his skills, on his setup, everything was just rolling, and he had an awesome drives out of corners. I got more corner entries, so it was really hard. I don't know if you saw entering the Autodrome, but it was super close. It scared me, and but then I knew it was the place to do it. It was a good race, and I'm happy to finish on the podium because it's well deserved, I'm sure. Thank you.
Ben, what a terrific race. In the first opening laps there, we thought sure you may have a win in your books.
Yeah, I was giving all I had. I got a great start. You know, Jordan said he got one of his best starts, and it was surprised that I still managed to get him. So if you told me at the start of this weekend that I'd be as close as I was to Jordan now, you know, I would have took it. You know, still a bit disappointed, but you know, we're making baby steps forward, and here Tracky's so strong, and you know, we're coming through. So you know, it proves well for the rest of the year.
This is probably our strongest track on the circuit, but you know, last year we had it a little bit easy, where this year these guys really stepped up their game. I was impressed with Ben, especially all weekend, how much faster he's going this year and here alone. I knew it was going to be a long race and crazy hot, and lappers are obviously always something to consider here. And I got a great start, as Ben said, and he got a better one. So I settled in there and I thought, you know what, well, the tire's still good. I got to get out front, put my head down. You don't want to get caught up and use your tire up just riding with someone. So I was able to pull out a gap and just pace to the end, you know.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was your first place finisher, Jordan Zook. Now this is your podium, Trepanier, Young, and Zook.
Looking at our point standings with 3 races down and 4 to go in 2018, and here's a shock. Jordan Zook is in control atop the standings, but Young is still close with those 2 doubleheaders to come. Trepanier moving up to 3rd from Daly, Williams, Kazaz, what an effort on a Yamaha R6 600cc sport bike machine, Leon, Tremblay, Samuel Demray, and Mitch Card, who sat this one out.
Well, that wraps up round 3 from St-Eustache. Our next round will be broadcast from Atlantic Motorsport Park in Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia. We'll see you there. Today's race is brought to you by Dalton Timmis Insurance, Honda, Magneti Morelli, offered by Mopar, Drift, and Dunlop.